Hi, I'm State Senator Scott Frantz, and welcome to our tour of the Connecticut State Capitol. For roughly 6 months out of every year during the legislative session, this building is a very busy place. Legislators in both the House and Senate debate and vote on bills on behalf of the Connecticut residents that they represent. The state capitol is our house of government, but the legislature's work in this building is only half the story. Tributes to legends and heroes surrounded by grand elegance make the Capitol a great place to visit all year round. Over the next 10 minutes, we'll be taking a look at a few of the prominent pieces exhibited in the building and how they represent a part of our state and country's history. Of course, a 10-minute tour of a building with over 300 years of history could never do it justice. If you are interested in coming to Hartford for your own tour of the Capitol, please call my office at 1-800-842-1421 or visit my website, www.senatorfrantz.cga.ct.gov, or simply look it up on Google, Senator Scott Frantz. Let's get started with the tour. Built on land purchased by the city of Hartford from Trinity College, construction of Connecticut State Capitol spanned 8 years from 1871 to 1879. The architect, Richard Upjohn of New York, was selected amongst 11 other people vying for the project. Initial plans estimated construction costs at approximately $1 million. However, the final total came in at over $2.5 million as improvements were added at different phases of the project. In early designs, the structure to adorn the top of the Capitol was to be a rectangular tower, not the majestic gold leaf dome that we see today. Other extra costs were associated with enhancing the Capitol's overall elegance and making the building fireproof. After one look at the Capitol sitting atop Bushnell Park, it is difficult not to gain an appreciation for its commanding presence. What may surprise you is that when construction began in 1871, Hartford was not our only capital city. It had shared the distinction with New Haven since the 1660s, after the colony of New Haven was integrated into Connecticut. The increasing role of the legislature in dealing with an emerging industrial and urban society led many to push for increased efficiency within government, starting with the elimination of the two-capital system. The controversy culminated in a statewide referendum to determine what would be the state's only capital city. In 1873, Connecticut residents voted 37,000 to 31,000 to award Hartford the honor, making Richard Upjohn soon to be building Connecticut's only house of government. The opening of the state capitol for the 1879 legislative session marked the beginning of a new era for Connecticut government. An ornate and elegant building was destined to be a historical treasure for generations to come, and it came at a good time. Just 15 years before ground was broken on the new capitol, Connecticut lost its most treasured historical artifact when the charter oak tree was blown down during a violent storm. Living for an estimated 8 centuries and measuring 33 feet in diameter, the charter oak tree of Hartford's Willis Estate played a central role in an event that came to define the spirit of the young colony. In 1662, the Connecticut colony succeeded in acquiring a royal charter from King Charles II, granting the settlement the self-government it had outlined in its fundamental orders. 25 years later, England's new king, James II, sought to consolidate several colonies, including the Connecticut colony, into the Dominion of New England in order to tighten up his control on the region. In October of 1687, Sir Edmund Andros, an agent of the king, was sent to Hartford with armed forces to take back the charter. The Connecticut settlers satisfied Andros's demands by producing the document, but during the discussion that followed, the lights were doused and the charter was taken by Captain Joseph Wadsworth and concealed in the hollow of a large oak tree. In the years that followed, the massive tree became a symbol of the colonial spirit that formed the foundation upon which our state government was built. So it is only appropriate that the charter oak tree is featured prominently here in the state capitol. In the west atrium on the first floor, you will find a frame that was made from the charter oak. And in the Senate chamber, you can view and even sit on the Lieutenant Governor's chair, more commonly referred to as the wishing chair, which was constructed from parts of the famous tree. And although the original charter oak is gone, you can still visit its descendants throughout the state. Across from the Capitol on Bushnell Park, you'll find a first-generation descendant of the charter oak. Acorns from this tree were also planted in many cities and towns across the state, making them homes to the grandchildren of Connecticut's most legendary and symbolic tree. By saving the royal charter from falling into British hands, Captain Joseph Wadsworth can certainly be considered one of our state's first heroes. However, it is our official state hero and heroine that are honored with statues here in the state capitol. Often called America's first spy, Nathan Hale was born in Coventry, Connecticut in 1755. A graduate of Yale University, Hale spent time as a teacher in East Haddam and New London. When the Revolutionary War began in 1775, Hale joined the Connecticut militia and was elected first lieutenant. Just 1 year later, he had been elevated to captain in Connecticut's 7th Regiment. After British forces captured New York City, it was Nathan Hale who answered George Washington's call for a volunteer to travel behind enemy lines as a spy for the Continental Army. Disguised as a Dutch schoolmaster, Hale successfully gathered information on troop positions for about a week before being captured on his way back to the American side. Held captive overnight, Nathan Hale was hung the next day without the benefit of a trial. By all accounts, Hale was composed and spoke eloquently in the minutes leading up to his execution. Faced with imminent death, he is widely credited with uttering a line known by most Americans: "I only regret that I have but one life to give my country." We honor the Coventry native right here in the Capitol in the East Atrium with a large statue complete with these famous words. Hale is remembered for his contributions to the Revolutionary War, but he was more than a soldier. As a teacher, Hale did not believe education should be offered to just boys. When he told he must continue to teach boys during the day, he arranged for 20 girls to come in from 5 to 7 a.m. to receive the same instruction the boys would receive later in the day. Although this went against the popular opinion of the time, Nathan Hale was not faced with the public outrage that inspired the courage and the honor of our eventual state heroine. Prudence Crandall's family moved to the small town of Canterbury, Connecticut early in her childhood. Crandall received most of her schooling in Rhode Island. In 1831, she returned to Canterbury and opened the Canterbury Female Boarding School. Crandall's efforts were well received in the community until later in the year when she decided to accept Sarah Harris, a daughter of a free African-American farmer, into the school. Outraged with the decision, parents of the white students demanded Crandall dismiss Harris. When she refused, the parents pulled their children out of the school. Crandall was then forced to close the school. However, it proved to be only temporary. With the help of the famous abolitionist William Lloyd Garrison, the school was reopened to serve only young African-American women. Crandall recruited students up and down the East Coast. Responding to furious townspeople, the General Assembly passed the now infamous black laws, which prohibited Connecticut schools from instructing African Americans from other states. Once again, Crandall refused to give in to popular opinion. She was arrested, jailed, then released on bond the following day. She put up a strong legal challenge to the law, and eventually the case was dismissed on a technicality. Soon after her victory, the law was repealed. Prudence Crandall had won her legal battle, but not before the townspeople's harassment and violence against the school forced her to shut it down only 1 year after it opened. Shortly after the school closed, she left the state with her husband. Over 50 years later, the Connecticut General Assembly granted Crandall a yearly annuity of $400 for her contributions to the state. She passed away just 4 years later in Elk Falls, Kansas at the age of 87. In 1995, the General Assembly responded to the lobbying efforts by the students from the New Canaan Country School and named Prudence Crandall our official state heroine. Since Crandall spent most of her life as an educator, it seems only fitting that her recognition as state heroine was granted at the request of students. Even the latest tribute to Prudence Crandall came after the hard work of school children. In 2000, a group of 4th grade students from Bristol, Connecticut visited the state capitol and wondered why there was a statue of our state hero, but not of our state heroine. The students got involved and started the Pennies for Prudence campaign to raise money for a new statue. Their determination was rewarded in October of 2008 as the new Prudence Crandall statue was unveiled during a ceremony on the first floor of the Capitol. Although the funds they raised covered only a portion of the cost, the awareness the students created certainly played a large part in making the statue a reality. Heroes, legends, and stunning beauty. Just one walk through this building reveals them all. Come in and visit yourself. I promise you will gain an appreciation for this magnificent building and understand why it is truly a home to Connecticut history. I hope you've enjoyed our short tour today. I'm State Senator Scott Frantz, and thanks for watching.